welcome to another episode of Debate That, where we discuss relationships, pop culture, social issues, and much, much more. My name is Jay.
I'm Sean.
We don't have Nay in the building today, but we're gonna make up for her. Don't worry about
it. Well, now, Nostradamus, what's the question?
Our question today is to vote or not to vote.
That's a good question in the times that we're in right now.
It's a very
a lot of people talking to vote and not to vote, and to I don't like this candidate and I don't like this one neither. So why should I vote? So much of that going on. But those I'm saying people I don't want to hear ish from when it comes down to change and policies. And I don't want to hear you crying about, I don't like this, I don't like that. Hey, you gotta cast your vote at the end of the day. Otherwise, don't say nothing.
So your stance, Sean, is vote.
My stance is yes, vote. I think
What's your stance, Jay?
My stance is vote at the end of the day. Now, we can get into some details about that because on a national level, if you go in there, and I get it, maybe you don't want to vote for either candidate. I think you should vote, but you don't want to vote for either candidate. You also got to understand there's a lot more on that ballot than just those two.
Correct.
So it's a lot of things that's in there that you could have a say in, that you can see a difference in the neighborhood. First, hey, let me ask this question, right? Do people... No. For you, Sean, right? What does voting mean to you? Let's start there.
What does voting mean to me? Voting for me, I mean, once I was old enough to register to vote, I ain't even in front of y'all. You know where I registered to vote at?
Where?
You'll take the wildest guess. Fairville video. Woo!
Hold up, man. You got to tell the people where Fairville is.
Fairville is an adult store, for those who don't know.
It's an adult mega store. They got an upstairs, downstairs, and a private room.
Nostradamus is the one who introduced me to the store. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's where I registered to vote, literally in the front of that motor. So
hold on. When you walked in there, it was like, we got brand new vibrators and register to vote. Like, how did that conversation come up?
I ain't even in front. I can't even remember if I even went in at a time. But you know who was there at the front door?
Who?
Remember homeboy from Evans? The security
guard.
Clarence. Clarence.
Big dude.
Yeah. Oh, so you know, so you've been there and you saw him there.
Yeah, me and my wife. Homeboy was at the door. Yo.
Looking the same too with the cutoff sleeve.
I was about to go to class, but I got nervous. But hold on. Okay, let's get back to it.
Okay, so for me, when I was able to and old enough to register to vote, based on the importance that, my people's, my parents, grandparents, and people instilled in me the importance of voting. No, we don't know. I mean, nothing in life has been really fair, to us as a people. But, I mean, I kind of look at it like if you don't do nothing, like they say, 100 shots missed is 100 shots missed. You know what I mean? You're going to keep shooting till at least something fall. But at the end of the day, if you don't shoot none, you can guarantee that you're going to miss. You know what I mean? Ain't no opportunity. You know what I mean? You can't look for change. You can't look for anything. So, I mean, for me personally, yeah. I mean, once I was able to vote, and like I said, the importance that, they've instilled in me, and, the importance of voting, it was very important. So since then, I've definitely tried to make it my business to make sure, I'm casting my ballot and let the chips fall where they fall, and let, as they say, I do my best and let Jesus do the rest. So at that point, hey, like I said, let the chips fall where they fall.
All right. So for me, what voting means to me is it means change. Like, and the reason why I vote, it may be old, it may not matter to others, but to me it matters, right? My ancestors, not really ancestors, my grandparents, because it wasn't that far removed, right?
I was about to say, it's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago. So I got, my parents, and then I got my grandparents, and they're the ones that had to deal with that, right? So it's what, 2 generations away? Mm-hmm. So my grandparents had to deal with dogs biting them in the behind, getting sprayed down, beat up, jailed, losing a lot for me to have the right to vote. So to me, it's like I go out of my way because my child say they want to go to college. I go out of my way, bust my behind, get scholarships in place for them to go to college and everything. And then they get there and them jokers, it's like, I don't want to go. To me, it's like a slap in the face when I did all of this for you to have this right. If they took that away and they was like, you can't vote, I'm pretty sure people would want to vote because people tend to want things they can't have, right? You have it right here in front of you and you don't appreciate it. So that's for me. For everybody else who don't vote or however they feel about it is how they feel about it. But for me, I'm not going to slap my grandparents in the face and be like, I'm not voting because I don't think my vote counts.
Too much sacrifice, too much blood loss, too much going on, to be honest with you, you know what I mean, to even be disrespectful like that, you know what I mean, because it definitely, I mean, however you slice it or dice it, that's basically what it is, you know what I mean, because all of the sacrifices that has been made, for us, which, like I said, hasn't been that long ago, you know what I mean, it's important.
I get how important it is based on what you guys are saying, but to me, I feel like voting just means false hope, right? It means control. And what I mean by that is, there's a higher power to control everything, right? They understand, like, if I make you feel like this is that important, you're going to hang on to this while we're doing something else. And at the same time, while you thinking that, you're voting and it matters, is giving you false hope, because what we've seen over and over is that the powers that be, especially from the presidential level, really don't get enough done for the people. Right?
I agree.
So to me, when I hear voting, I think of false hope and I think of control.
But I don't know if you can really look at it as false hope, because there's also some other things that have to go along with voting, right? With accountability, voting comes dollars. It's money that's involved. You got to have some money to put in along with the voting, because once you put the money in and you're giving money to a certain candidate, now when they get in office, now I'm expecting you to take care of these things that I said that we needed done before you got voted in. Think about this. We keep looking at a national level, right? And when we're looking at this national level, it's like throwing a quarter in the ocean. You got to deal with the puddle that's out front of your door.
That in the hallway,
you can see. You can throw that quarter in there and you can see the quarter. You throw that quarter in the ocean, that's a wrap. Look at your commissioners. Look at your judges. Look at your mayor. Look at your governor. You can see your governor. I mean, it's still within the state, like your school board, like all of these things you vote people in, right? So you have to understand, you got to understand what you're dealing with. Just because you didn't get what you wanted on a national level, man, that's still the Senate and that's still the House. There's other things that you can do. You have senators for your state. You have those representatives for your state. They also get in there. In that Senate, they make the laws. I mean, these things affect you you have to be able to understand what's going on. So when you go vote, it's not just national. You also have those local elections.
But a lot of people don't understand that. Like, you know, when I'm looking at it, when I hear vote, the only thing I'm looking at is president, right? Republican president, Democratic president. Now you mentioned like the local officials and stuff like that. A lot of people don't know about that. So, you know, we got to kind of like talk about that so people can understand the difference between the local within your own community and national. Like, you know, why is it more important, or is it more important? Which one is more important, to vote locally or to vote nationally?
You got this, Rajon?
We both going to get this one. I mean, when it comes down to voting locally, I mean, I feel like you have more, I don't want to say control over your vote and stuff like that at that point, but I mean, what's around you is what's affecting you. You know what I mean? And you have to, I mean, that's basically where the start is. So if you got your community and you got these officials and stuff like that, and there's people who's getting voted into the school boards, you got kids, your kids are going to school, you know, the obstacles and different things and stuff like that you went through, and the stuff that your parents passed down to you that they went through when it came down to schooling and different things like that. Your job is, obviously, you want to make it better, the best possible for your children. You know what I mean? Create those opportunities that we didn't have. And it does start with, you know, how you elect those officials that, you know, affects the communities you live in, the school boards and schools that your kids go to. You know what I mean? So me personally, I think it definitely starts there. And you're definitely right, Nostradamus, when it comes down to the actual, I think it's more so just a lack of knowledge and just not filling out a ballot to say, okay, well, I'm just checking off this because I'm supposedly a Democrat or Republican. You know what I mean? I'm just going to check off this, that, whatever, but really not paying attention to the details of what really is on the line and what do we need to change when it comes down to, like, even when they talk about the prison reform and all this other stuff and, you know, these different judges and stuff like that that's on there. I'm gonna be honest, I don't have all that knowledge on that. You know what I mean? And do I want to get better at it? Yes. So you know exactly what you voting for, you know what's being affected, you know what I mean? And that way, I think is where people will be able to hold people accountable, you know, for earning your vote at that point.
You know, what we can't do when we get in these voting booths is Trump, Biden, and then you pick one, and then all these other people on this ballot you don't know. So you
be like this
and stuff, right? Because you read it, oh, she got a nice name. She probably cute. I'm gonna fill this one in, or
eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah, you just out here Christmas treeing. You can't do that. What you have to do is you're going to get these ballots in the mail, right? And they'll let you know everybody that's on the ballot. You can then go and look, do your research, find out who's who. And essentially, people are going to vote for the people who have their interests, right? You're going to go and you're going to vote for those people. That makes sense. At least you did the homework, the legwork to find out. I mean, I don't want to put it in this sense where, you know, yeah, but it's true. We know about the Jordans that's coming out. We know about the new cars. We know about the new mixtape, the album that's coming out. But when you're looking at local elections, right, it's like, so there's a commissioner over in Ocoee. I don't live in Ocoee, but this is how this thing works. So I have a commissioner that I know. His name is Larry Brinson, right? He's commissioner in Ocoee, Florida. I have his phone number in my phone. If I lived in Ocoee, I could call him up and be like, hey, Larry, I have this concern. Because I don't have a direct line to the mayor. I have a direct line to the commissioner. The commissioner can now speak to the mayor for me. And then those things that I want taken care of, he can address, right? That's how that works. That's how your That's how your senators and your representatives, that's how that works. Those people you can call because you have a direct line to them. So when they get to Capitol Hill, they can then fight for you on your behalf. That's how you get things that you want changed.
But then that's the problem, though, because then you got, I think we as a people, you know what I mean, has been so scarred to where I don't think people trust that process. You know what I mean? To where they say, because what's important to you may not be important to Larry. You know what I mean? So it might just be like, okay, well, here go a suggestion box. You could drop your suggestion in here. And it's just to say, okay, well, I gave you an opportunity to speak how you feel. That's not necessarily saying that that joint going to move nowhere. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's so much rebuilding and repairing that needs to take place. You know what I mean? For us to move forward as a people and for us to get the right people in office. You know what I mean? But I think that's where a lot of the stuff gets dropped. You know what I mean? To where what's important to me may not be as important to you. You know what I mean? As that official, you know what I mean, that can get over there and pass that word along. You know what I mean? This is what the people are saying. This is what the people need. I mean, that just might be my need. You know what I mean? So it's like, how important is my need?
Well, it's one of those things where you got to look at numbers. It's certain things that everybody's going to have an issue with in that community. Oh, we don't have lights on this road, and we need lights on this road because the kids are going to school. So then you express that to your commissioner. Now, in this district, it matters because if this mayor wants to get back in office, he's going to have to
fix that.
People, right? The same thing with the commissioner. He's trying to get those things done for this district, right? Those things matter. If you can see that happen on that level, then you can understand the larger level. I think our main issue is like systems, dude. Everything is built on systems. Here's the thing. In order for you to move something, you got to understand the system. If you don't understand the system, it's not going to work.
Correct.
So
but that's where that research come in, where you have to do your homework. Like you said, it comes to looking at these different signs on the side of the road as you're driving up when it's election time coming, and these people, you know, putting their names out there. You know what I mean? And you're in a Koi, and they, like I said, you can drive through a pop and you see all these different signs along the road. You know, vote for this person, vote for that person. You know what I mean? Of course, you definitely got to do the legwork. You know what I mean? To know who you voting for, what they stand for, what the background is, and how is that going to affect my community that I live in, that I pay taxes in, and you know, that I'm raising my children in.
So when we talk about the local stuff versus national, do we, and maybe, I don't know this answer, maybe one of you guys might know this answer, but does a majority rule locally to where when you have two candidates, whoever gets the most votes win? Because within the national presidential vote, the popular vote, the majority vote don't necessarily matter.
No,
what matters is the electoral college when we talk about a national presidency. So
true.
How is it locally?
Locally, it's numbers. It's how many people got out there and voted for you. Locally. On the national level, they have the electoral college, which is clearly outdated and needs to be dealt with, but it is what it is.
So that's a big difference between the two, because a lot of people who they may not vote locally or might not care to vote as much locally and only vote nationally for one of the presidential candidates might be upset because they feel like, well, I voted for this person and they won the popular vote, but the other person was elected as president. That doesn't make sense at all.
So I kind of got an idea how that worked. I don't want to get the name wrong. You got a better idea on that, on what everything is called, that the verbiage. I don't want to get wrong.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research, and what I found was that the electoral college is made up of specific amount of electorate, right? And each state has a specific amount of electorate based on the number of people who are in the state's House of Representatives and the Senate. So that matters, right? Because a state that has a larger population is going to have a larger number of people in the House of Representatives. So those electoral college votes, is what goes towards the president. Correct. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of times those electoral college votes vote with the popular vote of the state. But sometimes those presidential candidates don't win the right states to get. So there's 538 electoral college votes, right? Electorates in the states. I think Washington, D.C. has 3, and then the rest of them are divided amongst the states based on the House of Representatives and the Senate. But you need 270 of those electoral college votes to win the presidency.
And to put something in perspective real quick, like these the states, the swing states, the states that could go either way, those states, or one of them is Florida, right? And people they try to get Florida, they try to get Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Like these states, these people are trying to get. Florida is 10% of that 270. Like, that's a big amount. So it matters that you're getting out and you're voting so that candidate can get can get that 10%. We got 20, 27, 20, 28?
29 electoral college votes in the state of Florida.
So we're over 10.
That too.
We're over 10. So here's my biggest thing. We just talked about it not too long ago. You got to understand the system. Any system, if you understand it, you can understand how to move within that system. But at first you have to understand the system. People use it at work, not getting fired. Oh, I got 2 strikes, right? I can't get a third one. If I get 6 months, I lose a strike. Like, they know how to work that system. If we understood how this works and we understood how to work the system, along with the money that's going to be supporting the candidate, whatever candidate that you're going to be supporting, you can understand how to get the things that you want done. Thirdly, you got to know what you want done.
True.
If somebody come to you and be like, all right, cool, we're going to do what you want. What do you want done? And you have no answers, then how are they supposed to help you? Those are the things that we kind of got to get. We got to get in order. When we get those things in order, then you can start to really make a dent in what's going on. But first things first, you have to understand how the system works. So, oh, my bad. Go ahead, Nostradamus.
But when you're looking at the system, how can you have faith in our system, right? If you vote for somebody and they're the majority, they're the popular vote, majority of the people voted for them, but they don't win, how can you have faith in the system?
Again, you can't. It's not really that hard to me. At the end of the day, when you're talking about that the president doesn't have the power to do everything. There's checks and balances, correct? Wrong or right?
You're right.
Okay, so if there's checks and balances and everything, you got to understand that if you're paying attention to those smaller elections in the House and the Senate, things can change because he can't just steamroll everything. He has to go through certain balances. You may have this president that you may not agree with, but the House may be the opposite party. So then people are going to have to work together to get things done. You just can't look. If you mess around and let a president get the House and the Senate, like everything's get pushed through almost.
Pretty much. You
got to pay attention to the other things, and that's part of the system. And yeah, when you're talking about the popular vote, that's why I was saying about the popular vote. You got to pay attention to the other things because it's not just the president; these other things matter as well. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So do you think your vote matters or count? In I understand you think voting is important, and the reason why, I get that. But if you vote for candidate A and candidate B wins, you're not represented anymore, right?
Yes, you are still represented. You can still be represented by other things. You still have the House, you still have the Senate. The president is not the end all be all.
Correct. And I think that's where the confusion be.
You still
the president doesn't. Yeah, you still, like I said, if they have the House, then like I said, he can't just, like I said, steamroll through with decisions. You know what I mean? And say, hey, this is done. No, this is what I want. It has to go through the House, which is when them seats come in handy. And
your vote matters when it comes to those things. You may not care about the national, but the local matters. That's when you're not going to see a big change on a national level, but you'll see a big change on the local level. Your judges, your sheriffs, like all of these people you vote into office or into whatever service it is that they're doing. So if you want to change certain things that's having to do with the judicial system, then you got to start paying attention to your judges. Because when you get in front of these judges, now they can do whatever they want to do within that law, right? So certain people can get more time than other people. We know how that works. But if you get the right judges in the place because you did your homework to see what this judge track record is, now when you go in front of that judge, things can be a little bit different when you go in front of that judge, and it can be more about helping somebody rather than just throwing them in jail, right? The sheriff matters, right? School board matters. You want your child and what they're learning, like all of this stuff matters, but people don't figure that their vote don't count because they keep looking at the national vote. Again, you got to get back to how this thing works. You got to understand the system.
Foundation.
I think my vote count numerically. I just don't think it count from a representation standpoint, because I just feel like no matter who I vote for, they're not gonna care for little old me anyway. So if they don't care for me, why should I even go out and vote?
So when you keep saying vote, what are you talking about? Because you saying little old you. So you talking about across the board?
National, or are you talking about local?
I'm talking about both.
All of it.
All of it. Like, the person, the local sheriff don't know me. You know how many times I done got a ticket and didn't know who the local sheriff was? Because his officers giving me tickets. It ain't the local sheriff. And then you got, like, whose fault is that?
That you don't know who your sheriff is.
No, I know who they are because I know their name, but they don't know who I am. So if I call them, they're gonna be like, okay, well, you got a ticket, go fight in court.
You make enough calls, you make enough ruckus, they gonna know who you are. It doesn't matter if you at a company and you got in your building, you have somebody that's high up, right? If you make enough noise, if you're doing enough stuff, they're gonna know who you are. But people don't like to make any fuss, so I'm gonna just stay quiet because I don't want no issues. I don't want no smoke. So they just stay back. Nah, man. There are laws in place, and if you make enough ruckus, then I got a homeboy, right, who got a ticket, went to court, right? Tell me this: the cop was there on like Zoom on camera. Shouldn't he be in court as well? Shouldn't he in court with you, right? But if people make enough fuss about it, then that would change. But because nobody's making no fuss about it, they can get away with it. This joker, if he I think he said they were on the phone and they were on Zoom calls. Like, that's not in court. You ain't show up.
Yeah, you should be able to look your accuser in the eyes. So if they're on the phone, that should be thrown out. But you think?
I agree.
You think the law care about that?
No, they don't.
So if I vote and the law don't care, and it doesn't change anything, what incentive do I have to vote?
Your incentive is, first, again, we go back to it. You got to understand how the system works. If you don't understand how the system works, you're going to get yourself in a position where they're just going to take advantage of you. If you don't know, if you ain't voting, then obviously you don't care about the laws.
No, I agree. But at the end of the day, I think, like I said, we have to get back to the point of, trusting and knowing that our vote counts. You know what I mean? And regardless, I know, like Nostradamus said, he don't feel like his vote counts. I mean, me and you watched the video earlier with, Diddy, and he was talking about different stuff about making these candidates, basically earn our vote. You know what I mean? Not just giving it up to say, hey, okay, well, you Democrat, you Republican, or this and that, whatever. Make them earn our actual vote, because we're doing them the favor as well by putting them in them seats, you know what I mean, to basically propel them when they're supposed to definitely be working for us. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's about finding ways of, you can go out and vote, but how do you hold these people that we're putting in office accountable? What can we do from the point of actually voting? And you go to these ballots and fill them out. These people get elected in office. My confusion and stuff is, from that point, what do I do to hold them accountable? Because I'm like, hell, I'm not in any of these offices. You know what I mean? Once they get in them seats, they do what they do. And you trusting and hoping in that, they're going to do the right thing and do right by us as a people. But how do you hold them accountable? By not giving them the vote next time? You know what I mean? When the next election comes? Or how can you get even?
So you basically want to know, how can you follow up? Are you doing what we
correct?
Right?
Yeah. How can we know that, if you're not doing your part, how can you be reprimanded? You know what I mean? For not doing what you say you were going to do when you got up in this office.
So this chain of command, it goes back to the same thing. It's a chain of command, man. When you speaking to the person and you have your representative that gets things in order, right? Mm-hmm. If you have that list, like Charlemagne always talks about Tamika Mallory or Killer Mike or these people that are in that space, right? Mm-hmm. You have your representative in place, then you continue to press that individual about the things that we agreed upon to get you in office, whatever level that is, right? You have that person that can speak to that person. You just, again, you have to understand how the system works and go from there. Actually, what Diddy was talking about today, man, I 100% agree with. I may, like, the way that I see it, I'll vote Republican or Democrat. To me, it don't matter, right? It doesn't matter who's taking care of my house at the end of the day. And when I say my house, I mean Black people, because we're the ones that's having these issues in America. Right? So to address our issues, I was just telling my wife earlier, like there's no reason for me to be worried about what's going on in this person's house if my house ain't right.
Correct.
So I need to take care of my house first, and then I can go out and help others. But if mine ain't straight, I'm gonna go help you.
And that goes here. That goes for the way how America is when it comes down to handling other issues in other countries. I look at that the same way through the whole spectrum. Is how you going to worry about what's going on over there if home ain't straight? You know what I mean? It's like the person giving you advice, but he telling you, hey, man, don't do this and do that to your, let's say your wife or whatever. You know what I mean? But yet and still you out with him and he doing the total opposite and doing what he telling you not to do. You know what I mean? How you going to give me advice if you ain't taking your own advice or taking care of home? You know what I mean? And I agree with you 1,000%. You know what I mean? You can't worry about what's going on in someone else's house if your house ain't straight.
It's important to one understand how all this plays out, and it could be overwhelming. I get it. It can be. You can feel let down at certain situations, but that don't mean you just stop, because we have made progress. No, I mean, yeah. I don't think Black America is the exact same as it was for my grandparents. Now, things may have been changed to look a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, we have made progress. We have made progress through voting. We have made progress through the protests, the pushback, basically, to get to this point. But I get what the whole conversation was about with Diddy and just changing everything. And it pretty much is the same thing that our grandparents did, man. They fought for them. They fought for themselves. They worried about them. And then they got what was needed done. Other communities may have benefited, but at the end of the day, it was about us and us getting what we need in our communities.
So I have a question. You talk about taking care of home. What is it that you think makes people feel like their vote doesn't count? Right? I guess do you think people are getting educated about the process enough? Like, because you talk about taking care of home, you're talking about having to understand the process, but do people really know the process? Are they learning the process? Can you teach that process within your community to take care of home?
Let me throw this in there and answer that question. If your vote didn't matter and it didn't count, then why are they working so hard for you not to be able to vote? I mean, I'm definitely not going to work as hard as they out there working to stop somebody from voting if it don't matter. One, to answer that question, for our community, I don't know that information is being passed on, because if parent is saying my vote don't matter, it don't count, it doesn't mean nothing, then what are you teaching child? So child going to grow up with that same way of thinking, unless somebody gets to them and say otherwise, and then they see why they need to vote. But other than that, think about those families who are in politics, or those families who do teach their kids about voting. When they get up in age and it's their time to vote, they go vote. It's just a matter of being taught, educated, and moving forward.
So even if parent isn't teaching child, or parent is telling child one thing, shouldn't child be learning something about the process in school? In high school, I know there's a U.S. government class. Don't they talk about the process of voting and why it's important?
In what grade?
I mean, honestly, I know for sure they have U.S. government in high school. But I can remember back to the 90s when it was like Bill Clinton versus Bush. And I remember the grade that I was in, they had like just a local vote for our own grade to see, who they thought was going to win. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I at that time, I know, you're 6, 7 years old, whatever the case. You don't know you just voting based on what you hear your parents going to say. You know what I mean? But the point is, at least I knew, in elementary school, I understood what voting was and what it meant. And then in high school, you learn about the U.S. government, you learn about the voting and the process and why it's important. But then people still, after high school, go on to say that it don't matter. My vote, it counts numerically, but I'm not represented equally. All of that stuff. You know what I mean? Can you teach the process within your community to take care of your community, to take care of home, like you said?
I think it could be taught. I mean, you definitely got to just get the right people out there, in the forefront of it to, push that education or miseducation, out to these people, to let them know how important it is to vote, and where it starts, where the foundation of that voting comes from. And, like Jay said, basically, starting within your community before you start worrying about nationally, getting the right people in office and doing your homework. And like I said, just understanding that whole process of what channels to to use and go through, to get different things done or to get your voice out there. And it's just about putting the right people in position and knowing who those people are to move that needle, when it comes down to actually getting the stuff done. Because I'll be honest, like I said, me personally, I wouldn't know who the hell to reach out to say, okay, well, I ain't happy about this. But then, like you said, a lot of people, I can't even say, I won't say a lot because I don't know how people really feel. But I know when people are put on the spot, that response of, oh, what's your needs? I mean, you probably get stuck to really thinking about, okay, well, damn, what do I really need? What's important to me? What's important to my kids, to my family, to my community? To really get it out there. And some people probably just don't know. It's just like I said, voting is just like the thing to do.
What about this? So, Sean, is entrepreneurship taught in school?
Not really.
How important is that?
Very.
Okay. Tell me what in school, in grade school, is taught. Is finance taught in grade school?
Definitely not. Not for the most part.
So it's starting to seem like the things that are important in life aren't being taught in grade school. So you may have a U.S. government class or a civics class where they teach it, but you've been going to school for 12, 13 years, kindergarten, 13 years, right? And you mean to tell me they talking to you about oh, that just fell.
Right over there.
I'm good. These monitors fell, but they just talking to you about the government and things like that for what, a semester?
Exactly. And it needs more than that.
They don't talk to you about finance. They don't talk to you about
real estate, any of that.
Entrepreneurship, right?
No.
So they're not talking to you about voting. The things that matter, the things that get you out of certain situations in life, they ain't
keep them away from you.
Because the idea, call me a conspiracy theorist. The idea is for you to go to school, get a degree, and go work for somebody else.
Correct.
If you understood the system and how voting works for certain communities, it would change everything.
I agree. So that's no conspiracy. That's just basically that's principle.
I'm just not. I call it what it is, man.
They teach you to like you said, to work for the man. After you're done paying all this money to go to school, And like I said, the curriculum is so old, to where the times that we're in right now, you got to give people meat. I don't want these little sides and this and that, whatever. Like you said, the entrepreneurship of real estate and different things that is what gets this. That's basically is what's the flourishing parts of the things that people want to do to be their own boss and doing it the right way. It's totally a lack of it. There's never been, and you're not even getting that in college courses. When it comes down to it, it's still teaching you how to be basically, I guess, work for the man at the end of the day.
I agree and disagree. Like, as far as the entrepreneurial side, like, yes, I get it. When we were in school, there wasn't any classes to teach us how to be entrepreneurs or whatever. But, the School of Hard Knocks taught us how to be entrepreneurs. We saw how other people was hustling, and we saw them say, okay, we're going to sell this, get enough money to buy more product for whatever the case is. So when you observe, you learn, right? So I feel like they teach you things in school, but it's on you to be able to grasp it, understand the concept, and apply it. So I would argue with you that when we talk about the process of voting, it's taught, but nobody actually receives it and learns it, right? That's what I would argue with you.
I would disagree here, because when is entrepreneurship taught? From the family. When is finance taught? From the family. When is voting taught? From the family. All that is taught from the family. If a child had a parent that had bad financial habits, that child is probably going to have bad financial habits. If that child sees their parent not voting, that child is probably not going to vote. So when you see these people going out and voting, a lot of the times they've seen that from their parents, or somebody taught them about that and how important it was to go do that, because in your community it matters, right? In our community it matters. But again, entrepreneurship in our community, it matters. It gives us freedom, right? Finance in our community gives us wealth. Voting in our community gives us options. Voting in our community gives us opportunities, right? All those things help, but guess where it's not being taught? In school. If parents don't know, kid probably don't know. Voting is very important, but it's taught from home. It's pushed at home. You may understand it in school, but it's definitely pushed at home how important it is.
And how would you expect these? How can we expect these kids, like, you know what I mean? You like they say, you know what I mean, whether you out in these streets, you know, hustling, or your goal is you want to be in the music industry, or your goal is you want to be a doctor, a police officer, whatever the case may be, basketball player, NFL, baseball, whatever. If they taught the principles of what it meant, you know what I mean, to be in these, you know, seats, and how important voting is, and educated the kids of today on the differences between these different seats, I would say, in these offices, you know what I mean? You might have more people who want to be in office and feel like they can, you know, conduct change, you know, when they get older. I ain't looking at the basketball court. I'm looking at, oh, you know what? I want to run for governor. You know what I mean? I was raised in this community. I know what I've been through in this community. I see it on a day-to-day basis. Hey, I might want to change that. You know what I mean? I want to see what I can do to grow that way. And because of the lack of it in schools, like I said, it's not taught besides, like Jay said, at home. And everybody's not definitely meant to be an entrepreneur. Definitely, you can be. The opportunity is there, but you do have people who love the system. You know what I mean? That feels like it works for them. But for the most part, the lack of it, of them not giving us that type of meat when it comes to being in school, and you in school most of your day, I mean, you're missing out. And now you just got to hope and pray that your people at home got enough time to really educate you on the importance of your finances, the voting, you know what I mean, the things of the community, what's important, what's a need, what's not a need, you know what I mean?
Well, first of all, let's not say that, you know, the meat, right? Let's say substance, because I don't want to talk about no meat, right?
Lord.
That's first and foremost. That's first and foremost. But what I would say is you guys are correct about entrepreneurship class and finance classes. But I think the voting class is there. You know, I think you're taught that in school. I just don't think kids understand how important it is at that time when they're taught it. So then it just goes one ear and not the other.
The only voting I knew of in school was for who the hell is prom king or prom queen or some ish like that.
So you never took U.S. government in school?
Yo, you can't think one semester is going to set you for life. Like, we all understand that if you want to get better at something, there has to be repetition. You have to be voting. You have to go vote. You have to watch it on TV and understand how it plays out. You will never understand the system until you're in it.
Well, no, you're right. But what I'm saying, you're correct about U.S. government also being one semester. You're taught it, but then it's you that got to go out and say and go out and find that knowledge to teach, to learn more about it, or go find somebody that could teach you more about it, right?
Bro, who gonna do that at 15, 16, 17 years old? You getting ready for college.
Mm-hmm.
if it's not.
But like Sean just said, the only voting he knew about was prom, king, queen. But that goes right there. It shows you.
I'm talking about in school.
In school, that's what I'm saying. You learn about popular vote, and then you understand like if I vote for this person, then they're gonna win.
Man, these Negroes ain't about that. We ain't talking about that. We talking about their real life. I'm talking about, like you said, substance. The substance and
but that stuff is relatable, is what I'm saying, to what age
definitely.
You are.
It's relatable for the fact that like I said, I can care less who prom king, prom queen, who's the student. What the hell? What's the other one? Student body president, or whatever the hell it is. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like the real deal. They're not teaching us that part. Yeah, they could tell us, okay, well, yeah, you're a numeric number at that point to say, okay, well, I like Jason to be prom king or some ish like that. But for the most part, hey, why are we putting Jason as prom king? You know what I mean? Why do you think he should be that? What has he done throughout the school year to be prom king worthy?
Well, prom king is really, that's funny you mentioned that. If I had to look about it and find a correlation, I think prom king queen is really like the presidential, presidential vote, and then the student body president, vice president,
like
treasurer. That's like the local, right? So
right.
What I'm saying is, you learn about the voting in school, right? And then there's examples for you to do it, but as a kid, you might not correlate it. And then it goes in one ear and out the other. And then by the time you become an adult, you're like, well, I don't understand this process. I don't know what this is. I didn't learn this. But you did. You just didn't take on to it, and you didn't go seek out further knowledge for it.
Well, let's just say this then.
Seek out further knowledge if you don't know how important it is.
Correct. Because at this point, prom king is only getting popularity. Jay is prom king because of popularity vote. Oh, everybody know Jay. Everybody like Jay. Jay playing the basketball team. You know, Jay's a people's person. Everybody rocking with him. It's not necessarily to say, oh, well, you know, he looked at, you know, over student needs and, oh, we ain't have windows in our building. Now we got windows. We ain't have clean water. So now we got clean water. Oh, we want an extended lunch. Oh, or free period. Yeah, Jay got that done for us. It ain't to that level.
So here's a message that I just got for what you were talking about, Nostradamus. It said the idea of voting is played out and exercised when voting for prom king and queen. It's simplified version of the real deal. Those involved in those bodies tend to be more involved and understand politics better as adults. So, but even in that quote, it said the people that are involved, those parties that are involved in it, understand politics later on. To Sean's point, this is just a popularity contest, right?
Basically.
I see how you can tie everything together, but back to the meat, you got to be able to have that in place as the time goes on. Think about it. From high school to college to now I'm an adult. If your parents drove that home in high school, you don't forget that in college. You still understand what it is to vote. You know what's going on. And when you become an adult and you have kids, and maybe it matters more if you're not doing it at the collegiate level. Is that right? Did I say that right? I read that one. But anyway, if you're doing it at that level, and then when you become an adult, you're gonna go vote.
And you think about it. You got you say U.S. government in high school. You got Spanish 1 and 2 in high school. Why?
Do you remember any of that Spanish?
And then half the time you speaking that Spanish to someone who's from Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic, they don't talk like that at all. So at that point, you're wasting your time when you could have had 2 semesters or 2 years of U.S. government, and where you can break down, okay, well, let's break down what the importance is of, the the governors and the mayors and stuff like that of how important it is in your community. So you could have really, like I said, switched up the curriculum and make it better if you're really trying to make change to something. And that's just a dumb, simple example. Like I said, how much Spanish do you remember? Most of the Spanish you probably know is from people you know who's Spanish, who you hung out with. You know what I mean? And you might pick up something here and there, whatever. Yeah, you can learn the basics, you know, counting by numbers and, you know, saying hi and hello, but you ain't out here spitting whole conversations like, oh, yeah, I learned that from Spanish class. Hell no.
But that wasn't a dumb example, though. I think that's actually a pretty good example. That's
a great example.
You know, you can there are certain things that they can lessen to, you know, expand other areas. You know what I mean? I think U.S. government being one of them, instead of just being a semester, going a full year is actually a good idea.
We're in the U.S. If you live here, that should be the meat and potatoes. Pause.
But that's not how it's designed. Yo,
of course not.
I'm gonna say this, and then we got to do our final thoughts, everybody. But what the way that you got to look at this thing for me is Sean made an excellent point when he said Spanish 1 and 2. And that's a whole year. That's not even a semester.
And if you don't take it, you don't pass.
Politics is another language, right? So learning that language in school, Spanish 1 and 2, if you do not speak Spanish every day, you will forget it. If you're not using that on a consistent basis, you will forget it. You might remember a thing here, a thing there, but ultimately you're going to forget it.
Mm-hmm. You're not feeding it enough.
Exactly. The second thing, my dad used to tell me the best way to learn something is to jump right in. Outside of the Spanish example that we just used, the best way to learn Spanish is to go to a country that speaks Spanish, and you will learn it.
Don't believe that, because if you don't know how to swim and you jump in the ocean, you about to die.
But no, if you may not die if you were taught those basic things on how to swim. When
they're gonna kick in.
You're gonna try to remember those things to get up out that water. It's the same, it's the same concept, man. If you're dealing with that voting every day, not every day, but if you're dealing with that voting often, then it makes sense that you're going to do it later on. If it's not that way, it's going to make sense that you're not going to do it, or you're going to see it as not being important. So, I mean, at the end of final thoughts. At the end of the day, what are your final thoughts, Sean?
Final thoughts is, listen, like I said, for those, me personally, I'm going to vote. I'm always going to vote. Long as God give me breath and life, I'm going to teach that to my children, you know what I mean? And let them know the importance of what it means to vote. But at the end of the day, I don't want to hear ish from nobody who's saying, you know what, I ain't voting. Don't complain about nothing. You know what I mean? I'm not here to judge nobody, but it's funny that a lot of people who be from different countries, you know what I mean, that I know personally that might be half this, half that. And I'm like, yo, you looked at us less of a person than we are as Black people, but you feel like you don't want to vote? You know what I mean? Because you don't like neither one? Me personally, vote. You know what I mean? If you want to be heard, you got to let the chips fall where they fall. We do need to hold people accountable once they get in those offices, make them earn our votes. You know what I mean? And we just got to find ways to keep pressing forward.
All right, Nostradamus, what you got?
I mean, honestly, you know, to vote or not to vote, I really don't think it make a difference. You know, the same way that I respect your rights to vote, I think you should respect my right not to vote. It sounds like to me that is more voting is important, especially on the local level. So make sure to go out and vote locally for your, you know, county commissioners and city commissioners and, you know, mayors and sheriffs and, you know, the district representatives, you know. But on a national level, you just gotta vote with who aligns more in terms of the policy that you look for, instead of just voting strictly on whether you identify as a Republican or a Democrat. You got to vote based on where you're getting the most substance, and and I think that's what it is.
Just say the word meat, bro.
We no, getting the most
meat. No, but I agree with you 1,000%, Nostradamus. I would say this though. Sometimes it would also play tricks in my head real quick. Is when if I look at a voting and they say, okay, well, yeah, this one had 2 million votes. This one had 2,000,001 votes, and I say, okay, well, damn. If I missed out, or if I did say, okay, I voted, well, you always be thinking about that one vote that could have brought that edge a little closer or over. You know what I mean? I look at it from that numbers point. You know what I mean? To where if you lose by one, that one vote could have been my vote. You know what I mean?
Would you? Sorry, I'm gonna let you go, Jay. But would you be able to handle it if you was that one last vote to determine?
It's tough to even think about. I can't even I can't even do it. But I know where you're going with it, and like I said, it's tough. But that's what plays in my head. If it was that one vote,
like if it was candidate A got 1 million votes, candidate B got 1 million votes, and you the last 2 point. That one vote, and they say, who you voting for, Sean? Like, would you be able to handle that pressure to say, I'm going to vote for A or B, and that person's going to win? No, I don't know. That's crazy to even think about it, but that's where my headspace will be. We never get in a situation where it's one person decide the rest of the vote, so I'll let you know that for right now.
Oh, I know that for a fact. You're right.
Go for it, Jay.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Debate That. Listen, we just want you guys to be able to enjoy, take these conversations, take it back home. You guys discuss it, y'all chop it up and figure out, what it is. So I need you guys to like, subscribe, hit the notification button so you can know when we're releasing these videos. So y'all can
share that ish.
You know what I mean? And thank you for watching. Again, the question is to vote or not to vote. That's the question. Now, y'all go debate that. And I'm not going to sit here and put my hand under my chin and say bye. Forget that. Oh, and don't forget to share. Yeah, please share. Y'all have
That's the most important part.
You call it chaos, but we marching for change. You bring up the black on black violence and neglect the reasons that's behind it. Let's talk about cause and effect, but you ain't never bring up that yet. America was built on slavery, so we never seen a common ground. Things ain't never been equal when the law still got us bound. Just think in 1964, we had to use the back door. Too close to still feel pain. Take a trip down memory lane. But one thing for certain, my people are hurting. I'm seeing the beauty, you seeing the circus. When we scream out Black Lives Matter, that don't mean that we don't value yours. It's just our house is on fire, so just pass us the water. We gotta fight until we win. We want justice, nothing else I wanna live. We gotta fight for our kids. So don't think we giving up until we get it. But we gotta hold on. All we gotta do is stay strong. So we gotta hold on. No matter what it takes, let's stay strong. You just gotta hold on. We won't justice, nothing less, we standing strong. I'm telling you to hold on. Yeah, I'ma let you know that everything will be okay. Take a look at yourself, understand who you are. I see a black king, I see a black queen. Don't be ashamed of your scars. Spreading the love of your family, praying for peace for your sanity. Take a look at yourself, your skin is your wealth. Lean on your brother for help. Everything's happening is breaking me down, but seeing the unity's picking me up. Feeling this weight of this gravity, but can't let them damage my sanity. Been using this love, we gotta hold on. All we gotta do is stay strong. So we gotta hold on. No matter what it takes, let's stay strong. You just gotta hold on. We won't justice, nothing less, we standing strong. I'm telling you to hold let you know that everything gon' be